Hey folks! Oh my lord, this was amazing. I had so much fun with this one, you cannot believe. Today's prompt is drooling, and my plan for this, right up until like 5 minutes before sitting down and doing some sketching, I had a plan to draw a wolf. Or a rabid dog or something, because that was the first thing that came to my mind, and I never ever draw canines because I find their facial structure really difficult, and when I draw them it's super hard to get them to look intimidating. So I thought that it would be a great practice for me, and as I like to do during Inktober, I would be taking on something new and different and very challenging for me, which I thought would be better for me to improve as an artist. You know, start working on something, eventually you'll get better at it. That's the usual consensus, isn't it? But, as you can see, I didn't go with that in the end. What I decided to draw instead was something much more monstrous. And before I get into the actual piece and how I went about drawing this creature, I want to say that I'm actually really sad that I didn't record the process that I went through to get to the thumbnail and to the final sketch. It was one of my favourite things when doing Inktober last year. I recorded the whole process, coming up with the concepts, making the thumbnails, and then scaling them up to create the final piece. I enjoyed that and really made me up the quality of my work a lot, I think. The reason I'm starting each video with the sketch already done is because I'm on much more of a time constraint this year. Last year I worked nights and I actually quit my job towards the end of October. I had the time to spend a long time recording and working on each piece. But this year, I have to really manage my time better because there are only so many hours of daylight. I'm trying to stay ahead of Inktober so far because next week I'll be working so much that I'm worried that I'll fall behind. Especially since I'm doing like a normal day job now. I'm a lot busier this year, so honestly doing this challenge is just helping me improve even more in various ways. So although I kinda wish that I had recorded the whole process for this, you'll have to trust me when I say that it took a lot of research and a lot of patience. The creature that I drew for this prompt is a wendigo. A creature from Algonquin... Algonquian. Gosh darn it. I looked up a pronunciation and then I got it wrong, and Algonquian. If that's still wrong, I apologise. But a creature from their folklore that inhabits forests in parts of the North American continent. It can take the form of an evil spirit or as a man-eating monster with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. These creatures can possess humans or hunt them, and descriptions of them vary. Some having it just be a spirit, or other more modern takes have them manifest as deformed, unnatural beings, unnaturally tall, thin, humanoid creatures with the skin pulled tight over their bones. Some descriptions depict the wendigo having the head of a deer, or even a deer's skull, with patches of matted fur and sometimes decaying flesh. The spirit of a wendigo can possess a human, turning them into a hideous beast and overcoming them with the uncontrollable urge to kill and cannibalize others. Other legends say that those with an insatiable greed, or those who cannibalize their fellow man, will be cursed to turn into a wendigo. The wendigo's stories are surrounded with murder and greed and the taboos that these actions hold with them. Those who were incredibly greedy and selfish were said that they could turn into wendigos, and though in times of extreme famine it was sometimes necessary to consume the dead to survive, the taboos around cannibalization created the legends of the horrific monsters you'd become. Both these ways of becoming wendigos were to encourage cooperation and moderation between people. Dances and ceremonies were even performed in times of hardship to reinforce the legends and the taboos. I also found a great description of a wendigo on Wikipedia, so I'm just going to read that for you now as well, because I love these things and folklore is great in general, and I adore it. The Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones. With its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash grey of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into the sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. Unclean and suffering from suppurations of the flesh, the Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odour of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. The Wendigo also lends its name to a condition called Wendigo psychosis, where a person believes that they have been possessed with the spirit of a Wendigo and is compelled to kill and consume anyone they can. There are cases of people killing and eating numerous people because of Wendigo psychosis. And honestly, that was one of the most frightening things that I came across during research. Ooh. I was introduced to the concept of Wendigos, as I assume many people were, because of the video game Until Dawn, the story of which revolves around the monsters. When the game was still very popular, I was fascinated by Wendigos and the legends about them, and when the buzz about the game died down, my interest in Wendigos remained, but I didn't really pursue it much. I was getting ready to draw a wolf for today's prompt, and suddenly I was just struck with the image of a Wendigo. So I instantly dropped everything and did a bunch of research and figured out what sort of Wendigo I was going to draw. Not so much a reimagining of the creature, but something that would challenge me and that I thought would be truly terrifying if you saw it in the woods. It's true that I never draw animals, and I have genuinely never drawn an animal skull, or at least one that I can remember, so the head was one of the more complicated things for me. Particularly the antlers. I wanted them to look intimidating and dangerous without them looking comically large and silly. I had to erase and draw them out quite a few times before I got something that I was happy with. I kept the skull fairly simple and decided to keep the eyes of the skull deep, black voids. The absence of eyes, I always find, is a certain kind of unsettling that makes my skin crawl. I wanted the body to be as unnatural as possible. Elongated limbs and horrifically protruding spine with long, sharp claws and hooves. Although the Wendigo is thin, it is inhumanly strong and fast. It's near impossible to escape it, and if you do, my bet is that you won't be going back to the woods anytime soon. The Wendigo is eternally hungry. Created in times of desperate starvation, it constantly hungers and will eat any flesh it can capture. Which is a lot. Yet, despite whatever amount it eats, it can never be full, so it just wanders the woods, forever hunting and eating in an endless cycle of insatiable hunger. Its emaciated state is why I drew my Wendigo with protruding ribs and a distended stomach, because I wanted it to look like it was physically starving. You know, prominent bones and patches of matted fur and decaying skin. It's a really dark piece. I love it. The pose is something that I'm most proud of, and I'm not one for usually drawing monsters or monstrous creatures, so I can't tell you how happy I am with how the final thing looked. I really wanted the focus to be on the monster itself, so I kept the background simple with the impression of trees, all fading into the distance with multiple ink washes. I feel like I should have bolder line work on the legs just to make them stand out a bit more from the pale ground, but I won't change that now. Honestly, I don't want to touch it again because I don't want to ruin it. The legs and hooves are also something that I'm really happy with, even though the position of the legs may be a little bit off. That being said, I could always say it's intentional to emphasise the surreal and unnatural look I wanted my Wendigo to have. Overall, I think the bone structure of my Wendigo is what I'm most proud of. If I saw this thing in the darkness of the woods, I'm pretty sure that I would just die on the spot, right there, out of fright. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this didn't creep you out too much, but I'll tell you, I really enjoy drawing things like this every so often, and I am so happy with it. So tough. Have you ever heard of wendigos before? And if so, from where? Hopefully not from a first-hand experience. Ooh. What monsters are you most afraid of? For me, yeah, I think it's this. Pop me a like or a cheeky subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more. It's always appreciated. I hope you're having a lovely time wherever you are, and stay safe. Ta-ra!